So Brad, what do you want your readers to take away, or what is the most impactful thing you want them to feel or to get from reading your book?
I think first, it's a good story. I think it's a riveting story of how I found early success in my life as a writer, and then how so much ambition and not facing my demons led to a very deep valley and almost wholesale collapse of my life. And then what had to come next was really finding humility, finding both a combination of humility and hope and hard work and grit to heal. And I knew that that I was going to get to the other side. I think so. I hope that in addition to the story, that readers will see themselves. I think many readers who might suffer from PTSD and trauma and addiction might see themselves, and might then also see a way out. I hope people will find that I might have done things a little differently than my readers who might be suffering from this. They may have their own path, but I think the path is reconnecting with yourself, reconnecting with others, and reconnecting with something greater than yourself. And I do think humility is such a huge part of it. We can't heal until we find a place of that we are just part of something far greater, and finding that getting over ourselves. Addicts and people struggling with addictions get very self-centered, and I think once the bottom falls out of your life, you have to surrender. And I think one of the reasons I'm here at Arunachala is this is Shiva. This is a Shiva mountain. It's not just representative of Shiva, the Indians, and I believe that this is Shiva. And this being here in his presence requires you to get on your knees and devote yourself to the greater good, to something far bigger than yourself, and that's such a crucial part of healing. And I think it's why these books about addiction and the I'm struggling here, but it's why daily devotional books, the ones that I use every day, they remind you every day to stay humble, to stay connected to other people, to not see yourself above anyone else. And that's the path. It's doing the work, and finding, let me pause for a minute. Anything else I should say about that? Is that enough?
So my follow-up would be,
Yeah.
can you just talk a little bit about the path that is outlined in the book?
Yeah, okay.
And how that relates to what the reader is
Gotcha.
going to.
Yeah. So for the path that's outlined in the book, after I was a travel writer for many years, and so one of the first things I did when let me pause for a minute. The healing journey part of the book, which is probably the second half of the book, begins after the suicide of a friend. And as I was putting him into a body bag and helping the coroner cart him to the hearse, I had a moment where I realized that I could end up like him, and maybe would if I didn't make drastic change in my life. And so for me, the next step, I needed to travel again, and I traveled to the Holy Land of Israel and Palestine. And while that trip itself didn't bring a lot of healing, it led me back onto my feet after many years of living as a shut-in. And traveling in Jesus' footsteps was an important part for me. I'd been a Christian as a child, and I wanted to try to reconnect with the religion of my youth. And while when I came home, I realized I wasn't destined to be a Christian again. It did open my heart, and I think that ends up being the path of the book. There's a lot of specific things I did. I got back into therapy, and I did it really devotedly, twice a week. I began moving my body more. I got back into yoga, and I tried other modalities too, but also to just relearning how to be in friendships. All of these things were like crucial parts of the path, but the bigger path was opening my heart and getting out of this thinking brain that can be so destructive. I think anyone who suffers from PTSD or trauma ends up overthinking things, and also with a brutal inner critic. And I knew that the path for me was to try to soften this inner critic. And the way to do that, I found, was moving out of the head and into the heart, where science now supports the idea of a heart as a center of intelligence. It's not just a metaphor for poets and songwriters. There's millions of neurons, just like the brain in the heart, and it's a center of intelligence. It's also sort of a non-dual center. It's not right or wrong. It's a place of connection. If you bring some problems into your heart, even put your hand on your heart, you can find that problems will resolve more easily when you get out of that thinking brain. And I think then the other final part of getting into your heart is learning self-compassion, which is also part of taming this brutal inner critic that people with trauma can have, especially childhood trauma. And I think that even something simple like putting your hand on your heart can activate this area and can become a practice. I also did a certain form of meditation called metta meditation. It's METTA, and it's a self-compassion meditation where you walk yourself through first. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe from internal and external dangers. May I be well in body and mind. May I be peaceful. May I be happy. May I be free. And so you start out with that, with the self-focus one, and then you can expand to a friend and say, I wish my friend loving kindness. I wish my friend to feel more ease in his life and peace and happiness and freedom. And then you move out further, maybe to someone who you perceive as an enemy, or someone who you have more problems with, and do the same practice. And finally you do that practice for all beings, and it's a very healing way to heal your own heart, and also to heal your own place in the world, to again find humility, to see that your suffering is not that unique, that it's just part of the world of suffering, and that it's a way to find more balance in your own heart, and to find deeper connection with everything in the world and all beings.